If you landed on this video, then you're looking for help with your drum sounds. You've recorded your own drums at home in your project studio. You got a nice interface, you got nice microphones, but they still don't sound right. They still don't sound like a record. You went to a studio, you recorded with a really great engineer in an amazing room, but then you got to add all these plugins to get your drums to sound right. Doesn't make sense. So in this video, I'm going to show you the foundation to a great drum tone, whether you're recording yourself or you're recording in a big budget studio. And a lot of people miss this stuff. So let's lock in. Now, instead of most videos on YouTube where you're gonna hear everything that's already polished, I'm gonna actually play you a very raw session. This is just the recorded files, no mixing at all. And that's where we wanna start with the drums, because let's assume you just recorded your drums as well. Here are the drums we have to work with. We have the overhead mics, we have a ride, we have a rack tom, floor tom 2, we have hi-hat, snare, kick drum, and overheads. So let's have a listen to these drums in context here.
Give me bright lights, just streaking past my engine. It's been long nights since the answers went away. And I can't hold tight to the strength of my conviction.
They sound like drums to me. How about to you? But they do feel kind of thin. They feel kind of washed out a little bit, like they're in a very small room with a lot of early reflections. And that is typically the case with a lot of drum sounds that sound bad or don't sound right. And you may not know until you actually hear them sounding good or right. So your initial instinct might be, we need to get these to a drum mix bus and we need to put some compression on them, and we need to start treating that kick drum and adding EQ and compression, and we need to get that snare drum. And hold up. If you're thinking like that, you're thinking very, very like a noob, right? You're the amateur guy or girl. You're like, man, I got to just start processing these drums. So instead of doing that and thinking like that, we're going to think a little different. We're going to go to all of these drums, and I'm going to go to the mono tracks, and in Pro Tools, I'm going to hold down Option Shift. We're going to open up a new plugin from Sonnox that is really, really awesome, and maybe my favorite for starting out drums. And that's the Drum Gate 2, okay? We're going to put that on all the tracks. The reason I didn't do it on the overheads, because it's a stereo track. So on the stereo track, we're going to do Oxford Drum Gate 2, but in stereo. Now, what we need to do for the overhead mics is we need to go to the source input and say alignment only, because we don't want to gate out the overheads. We want the overheads to stay open, right? Same thing with, I think, the ride cymbal. I just want that to be open. If I want to chop it up manually, fine. But we'll go to source input, alignment only, and then anything else that you don't want to use a gate on. Like maybe the hi-hats, because the hi-hats can get kind of ridiculous if you're gating a hi-hat. You know, it's going to be... It can get really choppy and weird. So we're going to go to alignment only on this. Now, floor tom, snares, kick drums, all that other stuff, great. We want to use the gate. We want to use everything we got. But to start out, let's just hit alignment on this. So we'll go to the align tab at the top here, and we're going to go to the time anchor. And this is going to be the kick. So this is the kick drum as the source. And then for the phase reference, we're going to do the overheads. So you could do this with the snare drum and overheads, or you could do it with the kick and overheads, okay? It's just to align the phase to something that is going to be a reference point, okay? So that's all we're doing here. And just make sure everything's labeled correctly. This plugin will automatically pick up all the labels, which is really cool. And we'll hit analyze, and we're going to play the drums. And bing, we are done. We've analyzed it, and the plugin has done a few things here. Actually, a couple things, not a few. Few would be 3, right? 2 things. All right, it's flipped polarity on some things, and it's moved samples on 8 tracks. Okay, so it's aligned the 8 tracks. What we have here is the kick got flipped on the polarity, the snare got moved alignment-wise, floor tom got flipped, both of them, and the hi-hat got flipped on polarity. So our next step here is to listen to this before and after and compare the alignment. If you just hold down this compare alignment, then you can bypass the alignment. So that's all we're going to do. All right, let's check it out. Let's hear what it did. And you tell me what you hear in the comments. That's pretty dramatic to me. That is all the low end, the punch, the mid-range is coming back to. The focus point is becoming much more centered, and everything's getting a lot tighter. which I really love. And I would have went in and compressed and EQ'd and done all that stuff if I was a noob, and you would do the same thing if you weren't watching this video. So you should start demanding this as well from the studios that you work with. If you go to a studio and they're giving you drum mics like this, where they're out of phase and they need polarity flips and stuff, just tell them, use this plugin, Oxford Drum Gate 2, pop it on there, align everything, and then bounce in place before I get it back to my studio, because this is going to save you a ton of time if you don't want to do this yourself. All right, so next step we're going to take here, because it's starting to sound good, but we want to now check what is it doing with the individual elements on the kick drum, snare drum, overheads, hi-hat, etc. So we're going to start with the kick drum. If we go into the Oxford Drum Gate 2 on the kick, we can start with this little detect button or menu, I guess. And what we're going to do here is we're going to adjust the threshold to where we're just detecting the kick. Now, a cheat code for this plugin, which uses machine learning, which amazing that they do this. But if you go to source and you go to input, or I'm sorry, drum, and you go to kick, now you can tell it, hey, listen for a kick drum. And then the confidence level will tell you, hey, I'm 99% confident that this is a kick drum that I'm gating, okay? So this is what it's detecting. All right, so we're gonna listen and we're gonna look at this view. Check it out. That's ridiculously good. I don't know any other drum gate that's going to be able to sound that clean and that clear. Now there's other things that we can adjust here. Let's go to the decay and let's mess with the decay, because we are professional audio engineers and music producers. We are not slacking. We're not doing dumb shit, okay? And we're not going to just go, that's good enough, bro. All right, we're gonna make great records that are classic and timeless and that people are gonna love for decades, generations to come. Is that a good speech? You like that? Get you going? Whew, I don't know, man. I just got done with a workout, so. Testosterone's up, man. Let's get some drums going. All right, here we go. This is the decay, okay? And now what this is doing, let's listen and I'll adjust it real quick so you can hear it. Again, we're professionals. We want that kick drum to sound natural. We don't want it to sound like a gated kick drum or it's going, doop, 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 doop. You know, that sounds like shit. Don't do that. All right, so we're gonna find this natural area. If standard doesn't work, we'll use adaptive and we'll use the high frequency dampening and we'll start to mess with that. So here's standard and then adaptive. And you can hear with adaptive, it's kind of killing the kick drum. So let's go back to standard. I move the frequency down a little bit and we're going to resonate this a little bit more so it can be a natural ring out. And again, we get the kick drum in the overheads. And if we also want to push these to a room mic, it'll help that kind of extend that kick drum sound. All right, that's sounding really good. Let's bypass this in and out so you can understand what it's doing. It's tightening up that kick drum. It's sounding really good, but there's more to this. And let's go to the last thing here, which is the level. And this level is really cool because we can kind of excite the kick drum, and we can also use this clip, which sounds really musical, and then we can mess around with the gain. I like to turn the auto gain off, and I like to first set the leveler here. So hit that and then start playback. Now, once you have that set, you can see what's happening here is there's a target. The reason there's a target is because you might have ghost notes. You might have things that are going do 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 on your kick drum, especially with a snare drum. This can allow you to bring this down so it can capture the ghost notes as well. All right, but right now our loud target, let's bring it up a little bit so you can hear what that's doing. Pretty cool, right? So now we're getting that kick drum to really kick. And now we can hit this clip a little bit to add a little bit of harmonic distortion and clipping. All right, now let's put that in the mix with the other drums. Now let's work on the snare. And then I'm going to show you something that's so damn cool about this. It's going to blow your mind. You're going to be like, oh my gosh, why hasn't anyone else done that? But let's get this snare really tight. So let's go to the snare. And again, we're going to solo out the snare. And what do? Same thing. We go to the drum, we go to snare. Now this is going to use machine learning. We're going to get the confidence right. And then we're going to go to decay, adjust, and then we're going to adjust the level. I mean, just one plugin, a couple moves on kick and snare, and we are almost there. But one thing, a big issue that I'm hearing is something is pulling the kick drum to the left. And I think that could be in the toms or the ride mic. So let's check those toms and let's make sure that we fix that up. So these are the toms, the rack and the 2 floor toms. Let's listen to these, and you can see there's a ton of bleed on these mics. You can see that I could see maybe a hit right here on the rack tom, and then maybe a hit here, and maybe a hit here on the floor toms. But if we play this where there's all this bleed, what's happening and what is in these mics? I can hear a ton of kick and snare in these mics. Now the snare is centered, but if you hear in headphones or if you're listening on speakers right now, you can totally hear the kick drum getting pulled to the left, which we don't want. We want that stereo image right in the center of the kick and the snare. So let's work on these toms. The first one is the rack tom. And what we really want to do is just make sure we're not getting this bleed into the drum gate. Now, if you're paying attention, which hopefully you are, and you've hit the like button because you like this kind of content and you like learning about making great records, then let's get into what this is, right? So this is the tom. We just go to drum tom, and this is going to help us with the machine learning algorithm. Again, we're going to just get the toms, all right? So now, if we go to where the toms are actually hitting, which I'll give it just a hit of it, and then we're going to go into the bleed here. Let's adjust. So you can set that up on the toms, and it's as simple as that. Like literally go in and select tom and then set the confidence. All right, let's do it on the rack tom. All right, now let's hear it in the mix and listen to what happens with the kick drum. Does it pull to the left more, or is it centering up? And I'm gonna bypass the plugins in and out so you can judge for yourself. Now that thing I told you about, that really cool thing that I wish every plugin like this would have, is the ability to create this MIDI pattern out of any of these things, and that way you can replace stuff. So this is how you do it. And I'm talking about just making these drums sound really, really dope. So first off, here's a kick drum. What do we got? We got everything locked in. It's all sounding great, right? But let's solo out the kick drum and make sure we even exaggerate this kick drum and the gate on it. Right now we got it really, really tight. So what do we do now? Let's take this little setting here. You can see there's a MIDI out, setting, and capture. And we're gonna hit capture on this. What I like to do is I like to set up so I'm on grid mode here in Pro Tools. You could do this in Logic as well, but we're gonna lock in on a grid. So we're gonna make sure that we have like, you know, whatever our start point is. So we can hit play and it'll keep going back to that start point. All right, so let's pick a loop section, and I'm not going to capture the whole loop, but I want you to see how this works. So we go to capture here, just click this button, and we're gonna press play. And when you hit stop, it stops capturing. What the hell did we just do? And what am I even talking about? I have just made a MIDI, complete MIDI programmed in middle C. So in the settings here, you can pick whatever MIDI note you want it to be. It's at C1. So maybe not middle C, but C1 here. And now I can literally take this drag and drag it to a MIDI instrument so I can layer the kick drum with anything. So let's just make a new instrument track. And then we're going to make sure it's stereo. And on that instrument track, we're just going to label this kick layer. And let's pull up any drum MIDI programming, you know, Addictive Drums, I think, are some of my favorites here. We'll pop this on. And now we have this kick drum under any of these drum kits. Let's go to, I don't know, Blue Oyster sounds good. And we can pick a sound. Let's pick a kit. All right, cool. That sounds like a cool kick drum. Now, all we have to do on the Oxford Drum Gate 2 is drag from here down to the track. And now let's play it with this new kick drum layered in with my kick drum I already have on the kit. And let's hear it in the mix. We can do the same thing with the snare drum and every other part of this kit. I usually like to layer up my kicks and my snares, and it just gives your drums a modern vibe and just blend them in ever so slightly. And that's what we're gonna do with this kick drum. And listen to what happens, because this is really powerful. All right, now let's give you a nice before and after with all the stuff we've done with this plugin. Just one plugin and a nice MIDI kick drum layered in. Again, you can do this with the snare as well, and I'm just gonna give you a true bypass. AB. Now, this is the foundation to a great drum recording sound. Whether you're recording at your home project studio or a really fancy $1 million studio, make sure you're taking these steps. Gate your drums, get them aligned, polarity flipped, all that stuff. Of course, you could do this stuff manually, but it would take you hours and hours and hours. So hopefully this video and the Oxford Drum Gate 2 is really gonna help you just get that workflow really, really tight. And if you wanna pick up the plugin, I'll leave a link in the description. If you guys like the video, you got anything out of it at all, even if you were like, dude, I just thought that was funny, cool, drop a comment, hit the like button, and I'll see you guys next time.